You're probably making mistakes in Rainbow Six Siege and you don't even know. If you don't believe me, then listen to these 12 common mistakes that most people make in Rainbow Six Siege. Then tell me that you don't at least make one of these mistakes. The first common mistake that people make is dumping an entire magazine into a barricade without either being behind some sort of cover or at least having a teammate next to them. The reason you shouldn't do this is because you waste your entire magazine on the one barricade, so once you go to reload, the enemy can easily just run out on you and kill you. You won't even have a chance to be able to fight them because you'll either have no ammo or have very little ammo left in your magazine, so there's nothing you could do. In that situation, you're completely defenseless and the enemy just got themselves a free kill. However, you could have easily prevented it if you were just behind a piece of cover or had a teammate with you when you did it. Moving on to the second common mistake that people make, it's over droning. If you're droning yourself into the building, then you should only be droning one room at a time. The reason being is because the information you get while droning is only good for a few seconds. So you could be droning the entire floor, but because you're droning too many rooms at once, that very first room you droned could potentially have an enemy walk right in and you won't even know. So now when you get off your drone and go to enter that first room you droned, there could be an enemy waiting in there even though you thought it was clear, and now you've been caught off guard and can die because of it. I know you've at least had one time where you've said, I just droned that room and there was no one in it, right after you died to a guy in that room. If this has happened to you, then you're over droning and need to stop. Additionally, the third common mistake that people make is not droning after they enter the building. You need to be sure to always drone out each room you enter. So for example, you drone out the first room you're going to enter the building from and everything's clear, so you decide to enter. Well, now you need to get back on your drone and drone out the next room you're going to enter to make sure it's clear. If you don't, then you're just walking in completely blind and an enemy could be waiting in there for you holding a crazy angle. So as soon as you enter the room, you just get gunned down. This could be easily prevented if you just droned the room real quick and saw the guy holding the angle. That way you could just swing him and pre-fire it. Likewise, the fourth common mistake that most people make is having bad crosshair placement. You always want to keep your crosshairs at head level. This way when you get into a gunfight, you'll already be at head level and can get the headshot. If you're not aiming at head level, then that means when you go to get into the gunfight, you'll have to adjust your crosshairs, which could get you killed because the enemy doesn't have to adjust their crosshair since they're already aiming at head level. It's even worse if you don't adjust your crosshairs at all, and then you're just aiming at the enemy's legs, which doesn't do as much damage as the upper part of the body, so again, it could get you killed. Moreover, the fifth common mistake that most people make is not choosing the right spawns and not watching out for spawn peaks. When you're in the prep phase, you need to figure out where the bomb site is and make sure that the spawn you're spawning in is always close to the bomb site. This way you're not spending 30 seconds running to the other side of the map just to get next to the bomb site. You don't want to waste any time once you're done with the prep phase, as every second counts. Also, make sure to always be aiming at where people typically spawn peek from, and if you see part of the barricade open, shoot at it. There just might be a guy on the other side and you just got yourself a free kill. If you're not looking out for the spawn peek, then you just might run right into it and get yourself killed at the very start of the round, which can make the difference of winning or losing the game. Furthermore, the sixth common mistake that most people make is opening up the entire window just to get your drone in. If you're going to drone by opening up a window, only shoot out the window a little bit so there's just enough space to get your drone in. Don't shoot the entire window open and then drone, because the enemy will just hop out on you and kill you. If you're going to shoot out the entire window, then make sure you put down a claymore below the window. This way, if the enemy decides to jump out on you, then they will die to your claymore. If you don't have a claymore, you could just try baiting the enemy by throwing your drone in and waiting a second before you get on it. This is a good way to trick the enemy because they'll think you're getting on your drone, but in reality you're waiting for them to jump out and gun them down. Moving on to the seventh common mistake that most people make, it is that they don't lean the right way or position themselves properly. A good example is, let's say you're holding an angle to the left. Well, make sure you are leaning to the left and you're not sticking your entire body out when leaning. Instead, try to only expose a small part of your body. Another good example is, let's say you're in the corner with a shotgun and you're waiting for the last enemy to come in and start defusing the bomb. Well, you're going to want to have your gun facing towards the wall so the enemy doesn't see your gun sticking out in the doorway. Additionally, the 8th common mistake that most people make is that they lean spam. This seems to be a big problem for console players and players that are new to keyboard and mouse. It should be as simple as leaning to the right when looking to the right and leaning to the left when you're looking left. So if you're leaning to the right to check a corner on the right, then stay leaning right until you clear that corner. Then you can unlean until you have to lean again to check another corner or angle to the right or left. Likewise, the 9th common mistake that most people make is that people don't pre-place their drone enough. You should always try to find a sneaky spot to pre-place your drone in during the prep phase. My recommendation is to pre-place your drone in the room you're going to enter the building from. This way you could check the drone before you enter the room to make sure it's clear. This helps out a ton for if there's an enemy in there, because now you know that the enemy is in there, but they don't know that you know that they're in there. In other words, you just gained intel on the enemy without them knowing. Moreover, the 10th common mistake that most people make is a lot of people don't check common angles as they clear a room. What I mean by this is, let's say you're entering a room with no information. However, typically you know that most people like to hold an angle on the doorway to your left, the head holes in the middle, and the doorway to your right. With this information, you should know to first instantly check the doorway to your left, where most people hold the angle, then move your sights over to the head holes, then immediately move your sights over to the door to the right, where most people hold the angle on it. This way, you're effectively clearing all the common angles that people would typically hold. To make this even more effective, you could quick peek each angle to get quick information in case there is an enemy playing on one of the angles. Likewise, the 11th common mistake that most people make is they don't use their utility to their advantage. So let's say you know an enemy is holding a close angle with a shotgun. 9 times out of 10 when you swing that angle, you'll most likely die to the shotgun because it's a one-shot kill. However, let's say in this scenario you have flash grenades. Well, instead of swinging the enemy and most likely dying, you can minimize the 1v1 factor to the fight by simply blinding them. The same goes for your gadget as well. If there's a guy playing behind a shield and you're playing as Ash, for example, you could easily use your grenade launcher and fire a breaching round at the shield to break it. This way you're leaving the enemy exposed and you could easily kill them. Finally, the 12th common mistake that most people make in Rainbow Six Siege is not shooting the default cameras. While it seems so simple, most people don't even do it. You need to shoot the default cameras because they give a bunch of information to the enemy. They can know exactly where you are, where you're entering the building from, where you are in the building, and know exactly who you are and where you're facing. With this information, the enemy team can easily jump out on you, pre-fire a doorway, or even push a flank and get a free kill or two just from watching the default cameras. In conclusion, these are the 12 common mistakes most people make in Rainbow Six Siege. From dumping entire magazines into doorways without being behind cover or having a teammate next to you, to not shooting default cameras. There are plenty of things you could potentially be doing wrong. So next time you play the game, self-evaluate and ask yourself if you're doing any of these things wrong. You could potentially be doing at least one of them, and just by breaking one simple bad habit, it could be the difference from you living or dying, or even winning or losing a game. That's it for me though. Are there any common mistakes that you make in Rainbow Six Siege? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like, and if you want more content like this, then subscribe. Have a great day, everyone.